In the heart of ancient Persia, where golden palaces touched the sky and armies marched with unwavering strength, there lived a ruler named King Yunan. His kingdom was a jewel, prosperous and admired by all. But for all his wealth and power, a shadow loomed over the king. A mysterious illness had taken hold of him, an affliction that no physician in the land could understand, let alone cure. His skin grew frail, his body was overcome with fatigue, and every potion, every remedy proved useless. As hope dwindled within the palace walls, a deep sadness began to consume the king's heart. But stories, like whispers on the wind, travel far. Beyond the kingdom's borders, tales were told of a brilliant sage named Yunan. He was a healer of immense and mysterious knowledge. Some whispered that he drew his wisdom from ancient forgotten books, while others claimed he was the last keeper of secrets from civilizations long since past. When sage Yunan learned of the king's despair, he knew he must act. He journeyed to the grand palace, a simple man with a profound purpose. Unlike the procession of doctors before him, sage Yunan arrived without vials of medicine or pouches of herbs. In his hands, he carried something unexpected, a specially crafted wooden club, its surface gleaming with a unique blend of oils and healing substances. His instructions were equally strange. He told the king that his cure lay not in a potion, but in a game. The king was to play polo using this very club. Skeptical but desperate, King Yunan agreed. He had nothing left to lose. So the king mounted his horse, the peculiar club held firmly in his grasp. As he rode out onto the field, the warmth of the sun began to work its magic. The heat activated the medicinal compounds coating the club. With every swing, with every movement, the potent remedies seeped through the king's skin, traveling through his hands and into his bloodstream. It was a cure in motion, a healing disguised as a game. After the match, the king followed the sage's final instruction. He bathed and then rested. The next morning, the palace awoke to a miracle. The king rose from his bed not with fatigue, but with newfound strength. The color had returned to his face, his skin was whole, and the illness that had plagued him for so long had vanished, as if it were merely a bad dream. The entire kingdom erupted in celebration. Music and laughter filled the palace halls once more. To share his joy, the king bestowed generous gifts upon the poor, ensuring his happiness was felt by all. Above everyone, he honored sage Yunan. He wasn't just a healer, he was a friend, a savior, and the king's most trusted advisor. But in courts where light shines brightest, shadows often lurk. Among the king's advisors was a vizier whose heart was a vessel of envy. He watched the sages rise in status with a burning jealousy, fearing that Yunan's wisdom and influence would soon eclipse his own. And so, the vizier began his wicked work. He started planting subtle seeds of doubt in the king's mind. Day by day, he would whisper poisonous words. He suggested that a man who could cure an illness without medicine could just as easily take a life without a weapon. He warned the king that the sage was not a healer, but a powerful magician with a hidden agenda, a sinister plot to seize the throne. The vizier's campaign of whispers was relentless. Day after day, he fed the king's ear with suspicion and fear. And though King Yunan owed his very life to the sage, fear is a powerful poison. It creeps into the heart and blinds even the wisest of men. The gratitude the king once felt began to curdle into mistrust. The image of his savior became twisted into that of a potential enemy. Finally, in a moment of profound weakness, his judgment clouded by the vizier's lies, the king made a terrible decision. He ordered the execution of the innocent sage Yunan. When the palace guards came to take him, the sage did not weep or beg for his life. A deep sorrow washed over him, but it was not for himself. It was for the king, a ruler who had allowed jealousy and fear to triumph over wisdom and gratitude. As he was led away, the sage made one final request. He offered the king a precious book, a volume he claimed was filled with the greatest secrets of medicine and knowledge from across the ages. The king, still convinced of his own righteousness, accepted the gift. Later, in the solitude of his chambers, the king sought to unlock the secrets within the book. He opened the cover, but to his surprise, the first page was blank. He turned to the next and the next, but they were all empty. The pages were stuck together, so he licked his finger to separate them, turning sheet after sheet in growing frustration. What he didn't know was that every single page had been coated with a subtle, yet incredibly deadly, poison. Soon, the poison began its work. The king's vision started to blur. His breath grew shallow and labored. A chilling weakness spread through his body until, finally, his heart ceased to beat. The king, who had been cured of one affliction, had fallen to another, one of his own making. Panic erupted in the palace. The wise healer was gone. The powerful king was dead. In a single tragic day, the kingdom had lost both its wisdom and its leadership. Following the tragedy, the jealous vizier seized the power he had so desperately craved. But a man who rises to the throne on a ladder of envy and betrayal can never rule with justice or wisdom. The people suffered under his misguided leadership. The once great kingdom spiraled into chaos and disorder. The fields that were once fertile dried up. The bustling trade routes grew quiet. The strength of the nation withered away. The kingdom that had turned on its savior had ultimately engineered its own destruction. This age-old story carries with it a timeless and powerful moral. It teaches us that true wisdom, the kind that brings goodness and healing, should be cherished and protected, never feared. It shows us that a leader who listens to the whispers of jealousy is, in fact, digging his own grave. And it proves that those who betray loyalty and gratitude will, in the end, lose everything, including the very power they sought to protect. King Yunan did not perish from his physical illness, but from the sickness of mistrust that infected his mind. And Sage Ruyan did not die from weakness, but from the ignorance of a king who chose fear over faith. The lesson echoes through history. Gratitude brings life, while jealousy brings only ruin. A kingdom, or a person, that turns its back on wisdom cannot hope to survive. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the past. If you enjoyed this story and the lessons it holds, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more tales of wisdom. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Until next time, stay wise and stay grateful.